November 20th, -1R. I took a loss and two break evens. My whole idea was on a 15-minute chart. I was just trying to determine whether or not uh, this huge swing high and these huge highs that we had spiked into were going to be a liquidity sweep or not. We had already tried to sweep them before the session, and about at the session open, we were holding back around that lower one. So I wanted to see if these two things could get in line for a potential liquidity sweep on this range to fall off, or if they weren't, then playing them holding up as a failed sweep to try to push into the next liquidity above. Very simple. So pre-market, we had already tried to sell off from the high of them, from the high of both of these pools. We spiked the first one, it just rebalanced. Then we pushed into the second one. In the market open, we were kind of stalling on it. So if we were going to lose both of these levels of liquidity and then start failing on these internal ranges, I wanted to short this thing to actually play a big liquidity sweep here to try to push opposing targets lower. If we did hold on these, and we're potentially gonna have a big sweep, but we can't even lose the internal 1 minute low, then I'm getting suspicious that these are failing, and I potentially want to long this thing on a failed liquidity sweep if we start actually regaining them. So today's market was extremely non-expansive, and through the lens that I look at the market, this thing was just setting up for ideas to happen and then failing last minute. So literally no expansions. So originally we market opens, we start holding underneath both. It's looking like we might have a sweep. I want to short this thing if we cannot buy at this internal low. We tried to buy at this internal low like 4 times right here. All of them just keep holding. All of the rejections off of this internal low on this bearish idea of the sweep are just holding underneath this level. So I'm really wanting to play this if we cleanly lose this and short this thing for a big liquidity sweep. But we don't. We just push down and hold this weekly volume imbalance level. So when this happened and we get back over this range, I'm thinking this thing is indecisive at the moment. It's not trying to sell off of this internal low. So let me see what we do. Maybe we don't want to sell off right now. This internal low wants to mitigate this idea of going lower. So let's see if we can actually regain this liquidity and potentially have a failed sweep of all these highs. We started pushing up, getting back above, holding this level, pushing over the next level, trying to stall off. It just rebalances the old one. And now we start holding above. So my long idea comes on the failing of these two huge high pools as liquidity sweeps. If Well, first of all, we failed to get underneath the internal low, which is a 1 minute low on a big higher time frame sell off idea. So this is already suspicious of this thing selling off. Then we actually start getting back above these levels of liquidity and start holding them. So if we're holding these up, we just failed this low and we're not selling off of the internal highs, then I want to long this thing in a failed liquidity sweep to try to push the next targets. So my first trade was a break even. It came right here. Um, we have this internal high, we have this internal low that got bought up, failing this idea. We're regaining these liquidity levels. If we don't sell off this internal high and we regain and hold above it, then I want to be long to play this liquidity sweep failing. We originally push up and try to sell off of it. That just sends us to retest and hold up this 209, which is that lower set of the liquidity we swept on higher time frame. Then we get up and regain the liquidity. We start to break out. I want to make sure that this is not just an extended sweep on these highs before losing them. So I wanted to see what the retest of them does. Next candle, we also have this monthly level right here, but I'm kind of disregarding this monthly level, disregarding it a little, because my idea is like really strong in my mind at this point. Like we have this potential for a huge sell-off. It just gets bought up by the internal low. Now we're regaining those levels of liquidity and we're failing to sell off of the internal high. So I'm overriding the fact that we're kind of stalling at this monthly level, which I still stand by doing. Anyways, we close back above, break everything. This candle comes, tries to retest everything, holds everything up. We're holding the internal high up. We're holding this old liquidity back up. The only thing we're not holding is the monthly level. But at this point, I wanted to try to long this thing on the breakout. I put a limit back at this high here, uh, just because we already retested and held this lower high. Um, I wanted to just make sure I got filled here, and I put my stop right beneath this candle because in my eyes, this is the wick that just held the retest of everything. I'm already anticipating a potential aggressive breakout into the next target off of the failure to sell off of these old liquidities. So I just got filled right here. And once we push back into and above this monthly level, I was break even within that candle. And so I ended up just getting taken out break even here. But my idea still stands. I still wanted to play this thing. Um, Still wanted to play the failure of this liquidity sweep and the holding of the internal highs and like everything here. But at this point, I was saying, okay, this monthly level is the last thing trying to stall us off. So if this monthly level trying to stall is only to just rebalance and we still can't break below this internal high, then I still went along. So I was waiting for us to regain this monthly level. We regained it here, but we still stalled off of the range of this wick. So I wanted to see if we were going to hold this monthly level up and then break this wick. And from there, I was going to try to play the continuations. Because at this point, when this next candle forms and we test this monthly level perfectly, hold it up, and then close above the range of that wick, I was extremely like confident in this position. Uh, this internal high is not selling off. These old liquidity 254 and 209, which are these higher time frame highs, tried to be a liquidity sweep. It just got bought up by an internal low, and now we're regaining them, holding everything. Now we're holding this last thing, which is this monthly level that was trying to sell us off. I was extremely confident in this position. I just took a retest right here of this wick. The wick that was acting as resistance here. And I put my stop just a few ticks below here. Actually, I think I threw my stop underneath this candle just to give a little bit of room for this level to maybe want to get tested again. But in theory, I could have put the stop here. And this thing just got killed. This was the high of the move, and it just got absolutely killed. Um, and this thing didn't want to break out. It just wanted to stay in this range. So I got smoked on the breakout. I stand by the position. I stand by this break even. I played my idea perfectly. Everything was playing perfectly. The market was just not expanding out. So it wanted to just sweep the highs again. And from here, I was just kind of hands off for a while. And I was thinking, okay, we have this idea to completely hold up these highs and fail the sweep, but now we're stalling out this monthly level. So maybe they do want to sell off of these highs and fill orders. So let's just see what we do. I don't want to short anything until we can actually break the range because I don't want to play this range anymore because it's already showing me to be indecisive. Push down, try to hold under this 209 level. And then right here, when I see that we just mitigated my whole idea by holding off of this monthly level. So this should be the liquidity sweep. When this sweep can't even push the opposing lows, and then we start regaining, I'm potentially wanting to play this thing again long. It is in the range, so I know the conditions are lower, but when I saw how cleanly this was setting up, I still wanted to try the idea. We have this idea for this huge liquidity sweep to actually hold because we held off the monthly level. That thing couldn't even push this low. We've now had two attempts to sell off of these 254 and 209. First attempt just buys up the internal lows. Second attempt can't even reach the internal lows. So it's looking weaker and weaker, but in my mind, I'm knowing probabilities are worse because this thing has already failed like 10 ideas 15 different times. But I still wanted to try it. I was watching this internal high because we just failed to push these lows. This liquidity sweep might be cooked if we actually regain these levels and don't sell off of these internal highs. So we get this push above, close above the internal highs, kind of try to sell off for a little. All these internal highs do is hold up this level. So we started stalling within this original wick that punched through. We're holding up this level. Stalling, trying to sell off of these highs, but we cannot break back above that old liquidity. And we get the break here. So at this point, I took a retest of this wick. Was like really confident in this position. In the weakness that we sold off of this sweep of. Couldn't push the lows, and now we're holding above the internal highs and holding up this whole liquidity. I just took a retest of this wick right there. Put my stop below this last candle. Just wanted to give some room. I thought that we're gonna at least try to push this high again and potentially actually break out of the range into this next target, which would be 5R. And as soon as we started regaining this 254 on break even, and I end up getting break even in this next candle after I was up like 1R or maybe the next one to the tick. Get break even to the tick here. Now this thing is still moving really clean in my eyes after this break even, and the idea still stands to regain these levels of liquidity off of this failure here to hit the low. So I still wanted to play this thing long if it sets up clean. Literally the same thing at this next level is what I played. We push up into this next level. We try to stall off. It's just rebalancing this old wick that I was in. We start holding this thing up. This 254 next high. Trying to sweep off the internal high, but we still just hold it up. And then we get the break of it. I took the retest of this wick again. Stop underneath the range of that wick. Just simple playing a continuation here. Everything's holding. This liquidity is holding. These internal highs failed. We failed to push the lows of what should have been a big sweep. We try to sell off of these highs, just rebalance this here. We're regaining, holding. We get the break. I took this. And once we push into this monthly level, I went break even. So pushed up here, I went break even. And I got taken out before this thing eventually did run up to these highs. And I wanted to potentially long the breakout if we were going to hold above these highs and hold this monthly level, but it just stalled again. And what did it do? Okay, now this thing wants to, as soon as I call the session, this thing wants to actually break out. Solid. But I already called the session, so I'm done. But yeah, like during the hours I was trading, this thing was extremely choppy. It had like so many failed ideas. These longs were, I like these long ideas. I stand by every trade. Like the original breakouts, yes, the conditions were a little choppy, but my idea, everything was lining up, so I wanted to try that. I stand behind both of these longs. And I stand behind these longs too, although a little bit less probable because I was now playing a market where I knew it was failing ideas left and right. This tick break even is kind of crazy. But yeah, finished -1R. Two break evens and a loss, and I'm still satisfied with the day. Just for my system, it was not good conditions, but I think I executed good.